There are moments in life that divide everything into a before and an after. A single conversation, a single decision. A single night can leave a mark so deep that the person you once knew begins to change in ways you never expected. Sometimes the most powerful transformations do not happen through years of struggle, but through one emotional experience that touches the deepest parts of the human mind and heart. The person you love deeply may still look the same, speak the same, and walk the same path. But something inside them may have shifted. A hidden wound may have opened. A forgotten truth may have been revealed. A feeling they could no longer ignore may have changed the way they see themselves, their emotions, and even the connection they share with you. But what truly happens inside someone after a life-changing emotional moment? Why do some people become quieter, more distant, or completely different after something powerful occurs? Is it because they stopped caring or because their heart is trying to process a transformation they cannot explain? In this journey, we will uncover the hidden psychological changes that happen when love, pain, and deep emotions collide. Because sometimes the person who changes the most is the one who felt the deepest. There are certain moments in human relationships that leave an invisible mark on the mind. These moments may appear ordinary from the outside, but internally they can create a powerful emotional shift that changes the way a person understands love, connection, and themselves. The night when something happened may not have looked dramatic to anyone else. But for the person experiencing it, it may have become a turning point. A single realization, a painful truth, an unexpected conversation, or a moment of emotional intensity can create a new perspective that changes everything. The human mind has a unique way of protecting itself after powerful emotional experiences. When someone feels something deeply, their brain does not simply move forward as if nothing happened. It begins to process, analyze, and reorganize their understanding of the relationship and their own emotions. This is why a person may seem different after a significant event. Their silence may not always mean they stopped caring. Their distance may not always mean they lost interest. Sometimes it is the mind attempting to understand a new emotional reality. When a person experiences a moment that touches their deepest fears, desires, or insecurities, it can create a shift in their internal world. Before that moment, they may have viewed the relationship through the lens of hope, comfort, or familiarity. But afterward, they may start seeing things they previously ignored. They may question their own feelings, recognize hidden pain, or become aware of emotions they were avoiding for a long time. This transformation often happens because emotional experiences have the power to awaken parts of the personality that were previously unconscious. A person may suddenly realize what they truly value, what they cannot accept anymore, or what they have been emotionally searching for. These realizations can make someone appear like a completely different person because their inner priorities have changed. The interesting part is that deep emotional change is not always visible immediately. Many people go through internal transformations silently. They may continue their daily routines, communicate normally and appear unchanged while internally they are rebuilding their understanding of themselves and their relationships. The outside world sees the behavior, but only the person knows the emotional storm happening beneath the surface. This is why a person you love may not be the same after a powerful emotional experience. It is not necessarily because their feelings disappeared. Sometimes it is because they have reached a point where they cannot return to the way they used to think or feel. The old version of themselves was connected to the emotions and beliefs they carried before that moment. But after experiencing something deeply meaningful, a new version begins to emerge. The most important thing to understand is that emotional transformation is not always about losing someone. Sometimes it is about witnessing the process of someone discovering a deeper truth about themselves. The person may become more careful, more thoughtful, or more emotionally aware because something inside them has awakened. A single night can become a psychological doorway. It can reveal hidden emotions, challenge old beliefs, and force someone to confront feelings they once avoided. And when a person walks through that doorway, they may never see love, connection, or themselves in exactly the same way again. A powerful emotional experience does not only change what a person feels, it can change the way they see themselves. When something deeply meaningful happens, the mind begins creating a new understanding of reality. The person they were before that moment may have carried certain beliefs about love, trust, connection, and their own emotional needs. But after facing an intense experience, those beliefs can begin to transform, creating a new emotional identity. Every person carries an internal story about who they are and what they deserve. This story is built from past experiences, relationships, memories, and the way they have learned to protect themselves. When a significant emotional event occurs, especially one connected to love or vulnerability, that story can be challenged. Suddenly, the person may begin questioning things they once accepted without hesitation. They may ask themselves why they reacted a certain way, why they allowed certain situations, or what they truly want from a relationship. This internal questioning creates a psychological transition. The person is no longer simply responding to emotions. They are observing them. They begin looking deeper into their own fears, desires, and patterns. A person who once searched for constant reassurance may begin seeking emotional stability within themselves. Someone who once ignored their own needs may start recognizing the importance of self-respect. This shift can make them appear different because their focus has moved from external to validation to internal understanding. Sometimes the most significant changes happen when a person realizes that the way they loved before was connected to old emotional wounds. They may discover that they were holding on to an idea of love rather than experiencing this reality of it. They may understand that attachment, fear of losing someone, or the desire to be chosen was influencing their decisions. This awareness can create a new version of themselves, one that approaches relationships with greater consciousness. However, this transformation can also create emotional confusion. When someone's old identity begins to disappear, they may feel uncertain about who they are becoming. The person may feel caught between their past emotions and their new understanding. They might miss the comfort of who they used to be while also knowing they cannot return to that same mindset. This inner conflict is a natural part of personal growth. The person you love deeply may seem distant during this stage, not because they no longer care, but because they are processing a change happening within themselves. They may need time to understand their new emotions before they can express them clearly. Human beings often need space when their inner world is being reorganized because expressing something before understanding it can create more confusion. A painful or meaningful experience can become a mirror that shows a person parts of themselves they never noticed before. It can reveal their strengths, weaknesses, fears, and hidden desires. Through this process, they begin creating a new emotional identity. One built not only on what they feel for another person, but also on what they have learned about themselves. The person who emerges after such a transformation may love differently, communicate differently, and make different choices. They are not necessarily a completely different person. They are someone who has been shaped by an experience powerful enough to awaken a deeper understanding of life, love, and their own heart. One of the deepest psychological shifts that can happen after an intense emotional experience is the moment when trust, expectations, or emotional safety are challenged. Trust is not only about believing another person's words. It is the invisible foundation that allows someone to feel safe enough to open their heart. When that foundation is shaken even slightly, the mind begins to respond in powerful ways. A person may start viewing the relationship, their emotions, and even their own choices through a completely different perspective. When someone experiences a moment that creates emotional uncertainty, their subconscious mind often begins searching for answers. They replay conversations, analyze small details, and revisit memories trying to understand what happened and what it means. This process is not always visible from the outside. But internally, the person may be experiencing a battle between what they once believed and what they now feel. Before the emotional shift, they may have seen the relationship through feelings of hope, security, and connection. They may have believed that their bond was stronger than any challenge. But after a painful realization or unexpected event, their mind begins creating new emotional boundaries. They may become more cautious, more observant, and less willing to ignore things that once caused them discomfort. This does not always mean that love disappears. In many cases, deep feelings can exist alongside disappointment, confusion, or fear. The human heart is complex because it can hold multiple emotions at the same time. A person can still care deeply while also feeling the need to protect themselves. They can miss someone while creating distance. They can desire connection while fearing another emotional wound. This inner conflict often changes the way someone behaves. They may communicate less, become quieter, or take more time before expressing their feelings. To others, these changes may look like coldness or indifference. But psychologically, it may be a form of emotional protection. The mind naturally tries to prevent repeated pain by creating distance from situations that feel threatening or overwhelming. A person who has experienced a major emotional shift may also begin redefining what love means to them. They may no longer measure love only through words or promises. Instead, they may start paying attention to consistency, emotional safety, and genuine understanding. Their standards may change because their awareness has changed. The most important part of this transformation is that the person is not simply reacting to what happened. They are rebuilding their internal world. They are deciding what they will accept, what they need, and what kind of emotional connection feels healthy for them. This process can be uncomfortable because growth often requires letting go of old beliefs. Sometimes the event that changes someone is not the event itself, but the meaning they attach to it. The human mind searches for lessons inside emotional experiences. A moment of pain can become a source of awareness. A moment of confusion can become a path toward clarity. A moment of disappointment can reveal the importance of self-worth. The person you love may never be the same after what happened because they may have crossed an emotional line within themselves. They may have discovered something they cannot forget, something that changed their understanding forever. And once the mind sees a new truth, it becomes difficult to return to the innocence of the way things were before. When someone experiences a powerful emotional event, one of the biggest changes that can happen inside them is the instinct to protect their heart. Love has the ability to make people feel deeply connected, but it also creates vulnerability. When a person allows someone close enough to see their emotions, fears, and weaknesses, they're giving that person access to a very sensitive part of themselves. After a painful or life-changing moment, the natural response of the mind may be to create emotional protection. This protection does not always appear as anger or rejection. Sometimes it appears as silence. Sometimes it appears as emotional distance. Sometimes it appears as a person who still cares but no longer expresses their feelings in the same way. The outside world may only see the change in behavior, but beneath that change there can be a deeper emotional process happening. Many people misunderstand emotional withdrawal. They assume that when someone becomes quieter they have stopped feeling. But human emotions are not always expressed through actions or words. In some situations, a person becomes more reserved because they are trying to understand what they feel before sharing it with someone else. They may be afraid of saying something they do not fully understand. They may fear becoming vulnerable again before they feel emotionally ready. The mind has a powerful survival mechanism. When someone experiences emotional pain, disappointment, or a moment that changes their perception, the subconscious often begins searching for ways to prevent the same pain from happening again. This can lead a person to build invisible walls around their emotions. These walls are not always created because they no longer care. Sometimes they are created because they cared too deeply. A person who once expressed everything openly may suddenly become more careful. They may think before speaking. They may observe more than they react. They may take longer to trust because their understanding of emotional safety has changed. This transformation can be confusing for the people around them, especially for someone who loves them deeply and remembers how they were before. But emotional protection is not always permanent. It can be a temporary stage where a person tries to rebuild their sense of security. During this time, they may need space to process their thoughts and reconnect with themselves. They are not necessarily running away from love. They may be trying to understand what love means after experiencing something that changed them. The person you love may still have the same feelings, but the way they carry those feelings may have transformed before. They may have loved without hesitation. After a powerful emotional moment, they may love with more awareness, more caution, and more self-protection. They may realize that love is not only about giving their heart to someone else. It is also about knowing how to protect their own emotional well-being. This change can actually reveal a deeper level of emotional maturity. A person who learns from their experiences may become more thoughtful, more conscious, and more aware of what they truly need in a relationship. They are no longer guided only by emotions. They are guided by understanding. The most important thing to recognize is that a protected heart is not always a closed heart. Sometimes the heart creates boundaries not because it wants to stop loving, but because it wants to learn how to love in a healthier way. The person who changed after that night may not have lost their ability to love. They may simply have discovered a new way of carrying it. After a deeply emotional experience, a person often enters a hidden psychological battle between the memories of who they were and the reality of who they are becoming. This internal struggle is one of the most powerful stages of emotional transformation because the mind does not change instantly. Even when someone understands that something has shifted, their emotions may still be connected to the past. They may find themselves caught between old feelings, familiar memories, and a new awareness that they can no longer ignore. The human mind naturally holds on to experiences that carry strong emotional energy. Moments connected to love, pain, connection, or disappointment often become deeply stored in memory because they represent something important. A person may remember the way things felt before the change, the moments that brought happiness, and the emotions they once experienced with someone they loved. These memories can create a powerful attachment to the past version of themselves and the relationship they once understood. However, after a life-changing emotional moment, the person begins seeing those same memories through a different perspective. What once felt simple may now feel complicated. What once felt certain may now create questions. The mind begins comparing the past with the present, trying to understand whether the old emotional reality still matches the new one. This creates an internal conflict. One part of the person may still desire the comfort, closeness, and familiarity they once experienced. Another part may recognize that they have changed and cannot continue exactly as before. This emotional tension can make someone appear unpredictable. They may move closer and then create distance. They may miss someone deeply, but still choose silence. They may want connection but also fear returning to the emotional state they worked hard to escape. This battle is not always about another person. Sometimes it is a struggle within themselves. They may be grieving the version of who they used to be. The person who trusted easily, loved without hesitation, or believed everything would remain the same. Change often requires letting go of an old identity. And that process can feel painful even when the transformation is necessary. The subconscious mind plays a significant role during this stage. It searches for patterns, lessons, and meaning behind emotional experiences. A person may begin recognizing behaviors they ignored before. They may understand why certain situations affected them so deeply. They may discover emotional needs they never expressed. This awareness can permanently change how they approach relationships in the future. The person you love may seem different because they are no longer responding from the same emotional place. Before the experience, their actions may have been guided by instinct, hope, or attachment. After the experience, their actions may be guided by reflection, self-awareness, and a desire to protect their emotional balance. This transformation can be difficult for both people involved. The person changing may feel confused because they are learning to live with a new emotional reality. The person watching the change may feel hurt because they miss the old version of them. But growth often creates a period of uncertainty before clarity appears. Eventually, this inner battle can lead to a deeper understanding of love. A person may realize that true emotional connection is not built only on feelings but also on awareness, honesty, and personal growth. The experience that changed them may have taken away their old way of seeing love. But it may also have given them a wiser and more conscious perspective. Sometimes the person you love is not becoming someone completely different. They are becoming someone who has been awakened by an experience powerful enough to change the way they see themselves, their emotions, and the meaning of connection forever. When a person goes through a powerful emotional experience, the transformation that follows is not just about what they feel in that moment. It becomes a deeper change in the way they understand love, connection, and themselves. The person who emerges after such an experience may carry the same memories, the same personality and the same heart, but their perspective has been reshaped. They have crossed an emotional threshold. And once someone reaches that point, it becomes difficult to return to the way they were before. One of the greatest changes that can happen is the way a person approaches love. Before the experience, they may have believed that love was mainly about closeness, constant communication and emotional intensity. They may have measured connection by how often someone was present or how strongly they felt attached. But after a meaningful emotional shift, they may begin to understand that love also involves awareness, respect, emotional safety, and personal growth. This new understanding can change the way they express their feelings. They may no longer react immediately to every emotion. Instead, they may take time to think, observe, and understand what they truly want. This can make them appear calmer or more distant. But internally, they may have developed a deeper emotional awareness. They are learning that feelings are powerful, but they also need direction and understanding. A person who has experienced emotional transformation may also become more selective about who they allow into their inner world. They begin recognizing the difference between someone who simply creates strong emotions and someone who creates genuine emotional security. They may stop chasing connections that drain them and start valuing relationships that bring peace, honesty, and mutual understanding. This change can sometimes be misunderstood by the people around them. Someone may look at the person they love and wonder why they are not acting the same way anymore. They may miss the old version of them, the person who was more open, more expressive, or more emotionally available. But what they are witnessing is not necessarily the loss of that person. They are witnessing the evolution of that person. Deep emotional experiences often remove illusions. They force people to see reality more clearly. They begin understanding that love cannot survive only on emotions. It requires maturity, communication, and the ability to face difficult truths. The person who changes after a significant event may simply be someone who has learned an important lesson about their own heart. The most powerful transformation happens when someone stops searching for their identity through another person and begins discovering it within themselves. They realize that their worth is not determined by someone's attention, affection, or approval. They learn that a healthy relationship is not about losing themselves in another person, but about two individuals choosing each other while remaining whole. This emotional awakening can completely change the way someone loves forever. They may love more consciously, communicate more honestly, and protect their emotional energy more carefully. Their heart may still feel deeply, but now it carries the wisdom of experience. The person you love may never be the same after what happened because they may have discovered a truth that changed them internally. The experience may have shown them what they need, what they value, and what kind of love they are willing to accept. And although change can feel painful at first, sometimes the person who becomes different is simply the person who has finally learned to understand themselves. Sometimes the moments that change a person the most are the ones that cannot be seen from the outside. A single experience can awaken hidden emotions, reveal deep truths, and transform the way someone understands love forever. The person you love may not be the same because they have grown through something powerful. Instead of searching for the person they were before, try to understand the person they are becoming. Every emotional journey carries a lesson. And sometimes the greatest changes happen when the heart finally learns what it truly needs. If this message connected with you, remember to reflect, grow, and value the depth of human emotions.